All right, we're sitting here with Beato at the NAMM 2025, a guy who's responsible for great content, and I think every musician can be grateful for the things that you do, the internet, all the information, all the great interviews you do. And I'd really like to know, what is it that drives you to bring theory, harmony, and stuff like that to the music world?
Well, I was really lucky growing up. I had a great where I grew up in upstate New York. We had a great public music programs, and I was able to go to college and get a master's degree in music. And since they've been cutting back on these over the last 30 years on these public school programs, I thought I'll give back and put out free videos on music or anything I know for anyone that has an internet connection in the world.
What do you say to guys? I mean, this is something that many musicians encounter, especially teachers, like, I don't need theory, Paul McCartney couldn't read, and I play by ear, I play by feel, I don't need that.
Look at someone like John Williams, film composer. John Williams can read and write all the parts, and so could Beethoven, so could Mozart, so could Bach. You know, all these great composers could write. All the greatest composers of all time could write music and read music. And just because some people in the 20th century don't know that doesn't mean that it's not something that's incredibly valuable. Mm-hmm. So yes, to write pop songs or rock songs, you don't need to know theory, really. To write great ones, it's a help, so you're not just repeating the same things over and over. I think it's like, yeah, some people don't need to know theory, but most of the greatest musicians that I admire can write and read music.
What do you think about, let's say, a musician like Paul McCartney, who definitely didn't study books, but studied music in the
It's the same thing.
But where did that come from? And in a case like...
He knew, the Beatles probably knew 1,000 cover songs. They were born, John Lennon and Ringo were born in 1940, McCartney 42, George Harrison 43. They grew up, they heard big band music that was far more complex than the music of the 50s, early rock and roll, and the skiffle music that they played. And they had all this vocabulary they had built up by learning cover songs to play when they lived in Hamburg and they were playing 8 hours a night. They learned how to harmonize. That's no different than learning music theory or learning about harmony.
So they picked up theory, but in another way.
Yeah, exactly. More of a practical approach.
When you did all these interviews with John Scofield, Pat Metheny, or Sting, did you notice there is something they all had in common?
They all read.
They all read.
All those people you talked about, they all know theory and they know how to read music. Okay. All the jazz guys do.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, some of the rock guys know theory. All the session players do that I've interviewed, the Steve Lukather's and every one of the rock guys that are session players understand theory because they read charts. They know how to read. They know how to read a chord chart. They know how to improvise.
Okay, so final question. What advice would you give for a young musician who probably thinks of becoming a professional musician and is on the verge of to study at a college or not?
To have a career in music, you don't need to go to college, but there's a lot of things you can learn at college. I hesitate to give people advice on that as far as schooling, but to me, you go to school to get a chance to meet people and become an adult. It's a great way to do that if you can afford it, but a lot of people can't afford it. They'll get out here in the United States and have this tremendous amounts of debt, and maybe they're not able to pay back these student loans that they have to take out for it. So maybe it's not worth it for that. So it really depends. Everybody's situation is different.
Thanks again for taking your time. My advice to young musicians, check out his channel.
Thanks.